Pseudocoelomate animals, we are going to talk about three phylum in this group. Let me turn off the light a little bit. Okay. There are three phylum in this group. Let's go over them. Clade Ecdysozoa, and animals that shed a tough external coat of cuticle, like arthropods. You already know that. They do that molting or ecdysis. When they are shedding, the name of the process of shedding their cuticle or the exoskeleton outside of the body is called molting or ecdysis. And that's what the name of the clade is, ecdysis. Eight phyla in this clade, but we are going to study only three of them. Okay, Nematoda, Arthropoda, Onychophora. Arthropoda and Onychophora is for next exam. They both are eocoelomate animals. They are not pseudocoelomate animals. Both of these guys, Arthropoda and Onychophora, they both are eocoelomate animals, true coelom animals. Just the way that your textbook break down the chapters is different than the way I do break down the material for you guys. I like to talk about pseudocoelomates first. Not all of the phyla that I talk about pseudocoelomates are in Ecdysozoa. I hope I made some sense. Okay, pseudocoelomate animals. There are God knows how many phyla in there. You can look it up. But we are going to talk about three of them. We'll discuss here Nematoda, rotifers, and then Acanthocephala. Acanthocephala, they're all parasitic. Rotifera, not so much parasitic, and I will talk about them. And Nematoda, they are both parasitic and free-living. Okay, cavity-like peritoneal sac. It's because of that they are pseudocoelomate animals. They have the epidermis, which came from ectoderm. Then they have the gut right here, and they have one layer, which you see in the picture, is one layer of mesoderm, and then the next layer is endoderm. So that's why they are pseudocoelomate animals. You have protostome, you already know that, and of course the bilateral symmetry and well-developed organ system. Even though they are round, you might think that they are radial symmetry animals. No, they are bilateral symmetry animals. As I said, some of them have 3 limbs. Some of them have copulatory bursa or spicules, and we'll talk about that. So that makes them bilateral symmetry animals. Okay, they are external anatomy. Polyphyletic, the evolution of them is they came from different phyla, not from one phyla. That's pretty much what I mean by polyphyletic. Pseudocoel derived from blastocoel. These are all of the information from the second exam we talked about. You know where you know what is a blastocoel, and the pseudocoel came from blastocoel. Syncytial epidermis, just like the tapeworms and platyhelminthes. They have syncytial. What does that mean? Syncytial epidermis. Syncytial means what? One cell has multi-nuclei. Very good. One cell has multi-nuclei. And there is a picture of it in your recent textbook. Your old additional textbook do not have syncytial epidermis picture of it. And I did draw it on the board for you guys. No circulatory or respiratory organs. These guys do not have circulatory or respiratory organs. Protonephridia nematodes do not have it. What am I saying? Pseudocoelomates, they have protonephridia, and but they do not have. But nematodes do not have. Okay. Cloaca and eggs contain chitin. Cloaca, chitin. You all know what chitin is. Chitin is a structure, is a organic molecule like a sugar. I hope you all can see this. It's a sugar molecule like this, which a nitrogen is attached to it. That's a chitin. Sugar, you know, sugars do not have nitrogen, well, except chitin. And it makes it, in Mother Nature, chitin is a very tough structure. Okay, so, but anyhow, cloaca. Let's talk about cloaca. Cloaca is the organ that both, it doesn't matter male or female, both reproductive material and excretory material, or waste material, I should say. That's a better term, not excretory. Waste material comes out. The opening that both reproductive and excretory material, waste material comes out. Excretory is not correct. Waste material comes out. For example, look at chicken. Have you ever seen, you guys, you live in the farm, the egg of a chicken has feces outside of it? If you have not seen it, but they wash it before we get to our food, we get to the market. Okay, but if you actually go to the farm and look at some of the eggs, they have poop outside of them, because chicken has cloaca, where egg comes out, also feces comes out too. Okay, in female human, that's not true. Where a baby comes is different than where urethra is. Am I making some sense? In case of male, we can call remote, that nobody does, but we do it here in this class, where our waste material comes out, urine, and also sperm comes out. Okay, so that's cloaca. Cloaca is, by definition, is a structure, is an opening that both waste material and reproductive material comes out from. I hope I made that sense. And they do the female of nematodes. Female nematodes do not have cloaca, but male nematodes, they have cloaca. Male nematodes have cloaca. Interesting. Okay, eutelet means constant number of cells. Something I think we talked about at the beginning of semester, that when you're born, you have set number of muscle cells in your body and neurons. And by the time you die, you still have a set number of muscle cells and neurons. That's called eutelet. But the number of your bone cells, the number of your skin cells, they all changes throughout your lifetime. When you were born, for example, you had 1 million a million bone cells, osteocytes. Now you have 10 million. By the time you're ready to die, you probably have 5 million. Am I making some sense? It changes. But the number of neurons and muscle cells do not change if the person does not become sick or have an accident. That's called eutelet. These organisms, nematodes, they're eutelic. The whole entire body from head to toe is eutelic. Stomach has a set number of the cells. Brain has a set number of cells. Epidermis has a set number of cells. So the entire organism has a set number of cells. And that concept in biology is called eutelet. Okay, I hope I made sense. Complete digestive system, except acanthocephala. Acanthocephala do not have digestive system at all. And what does complete digestive system mean? Anybody? We talked about it in the past. No? He has a mouth and anus. They have a mouth and anus. You remember some of the planaria you studied? Right? You had pharynx, and the tip of the pharynx was mouth. Also, here was what? Anus also. These guys have a mouth, usually in the front end of the animal, and an anus toward the posterior end of the animal. I hope I'm making some sense. Okay? I need some drugs. Phylum Nematoda, roundworms, the common name for the phylum. We already talked about that. The common, and I gave you a history of it. Why they call them roundworms? Because in old days they found them in the gut. They're big, they're huge, so they call them roundworms. And then the name stuck. They have not changed it. As time went on, they found other nematodes in human body and in the nature, everywhere else. About 12,000 species known, and they're guessing, based on mathematical models, it could be another 500,000 to be discovered. So they are there. The one species, there are many species that are free living, but the one that is free living, and you guys should know about it, we do not have a slide or anything about it, is Cyanorhabditis elegans. Cyanorhabditis elegans is used, its DNA is used, it's been mapped. One of the very first organisms, DNA has been mapped, and then if you had any other class that used DNA to run as a control or standard, either one, it was most likely probably Rhabditis elegans. I don't know, you guys ran any DNA agar gel plate, and very well studied biochemically. Okay, there's been a lot of research on that one. And number of cells are constant, utility, free living, and parasitic. Jose, I hope I'm making some sense. Free living and parasitic, both. Again, I'm talking about characteristics of the Pseudocoelomate nematodes. Non-living cuticle secretes by hypodermis. Hypodermis is a structure underneath, which you look at the slides, you will see the cuticle and you will see hypodermis. Cuticle is made up of collagen, and you already know what collagen is. We already talked about it. It's a what? Collagen is a what? Protein. It's a protein molecule. Collagen is a protein molecule. You have them under your skin. Okay, no cilia or flagella, longitudinal muscles only. So on this model, we do have, I hope you all can see this. Oh. Here is usually through the pharynx area, very muscular, but all of this is longitudinal muscles. When you look at here, this is cuticle, hypodermis, and longitudinal muscles. Can you guys see this? Jose, can you see this? Yeah. Okay. And then, of course, on this model, you don't have it. Right here, this is all longitudinal muscle. All of this is longitudinal muscle. When you look at your slides, you will see a thick layer of longitudinal muscle. Glycogen for muscle contraction. So we, first exam material, Jessica, we talked about this. Glycogen has for muscle contraction. Muscle extends to the axon. I did talk about this. In the past, first exam material and the rest of animal kingdom, neuron, is that right? Neuron, axon terminals release neurotransmitters to the muscles and muscle contract, right? These guys, the other way around. The muscles go into the neuron, and I'll show you some pictures, and neuron release neurotransmitters, and the muscles contract. Of course, and they only have longitudinal muscle. The only thing in animal kingdom, the only phylum Nematoda in animal kingdom are like that. The rest of animal kingdom is the other way around. Thrashing movement, I talked about this a little bit this morning for you guys before we start, but what happens if this is the animal right here, and then we have longitudinal muscles right here, okay? So the hydrostatic pressure, there is a pressure inside of the animal called hydrostatic pressure. The pressure inside of the animal causes the animal to bend. And then longitudinal muscles cause the animal to become straight. Am I making some sense? And then again, hydrostatic pressure causes the animal to bend, and longitudinal muscles cause the animal to become straight, and as a result, the animal can move. They are not like earthworm, they move by peristalsis. They move by hydrostatic pressure and longitudinal muscle. And that type of movement is called thrashing movement. Most are dioecious. What does that mean? Dioecious. Yes? What's it? Huh? Sexes are separate. So your lab practical type question, common one, determine the gender, determine the sex. Is it male or female? Okay, so, and we do have them here in this model, if you would. This is a male roundworm, this is a female roundworm. Over the years, students took this model and dropped it on the floor. You know, I played that song for you. Hey, teachers, we don't need education. No, but this was one of them. I took it. Copulatory bursa is a structure that you will see it in hookworm, on the slide of the hookworm. It grabs onto the female. Male have it, female do not have it. It grabs onto the female and transfers sperm to the female. So copulatory bursa is a structure for male. And the spicules is a structure that opens up the vagina of the female, and of course, the spicules itself do not transfer sperm. In most species, they do not transfer sperm, but they open up the vagina so they can transfer sperm to the female. Yes, please.
So copulatories versus for males and spiculas for females?
No,
No.
they both are for male.
Okay.
Copulatory versa is a structure that holds on to the female.
Yeah.
And then, not all species have copulatory versa.
Okay.
Okay, some species have them, some don't. Most species have spicules. Spicules is just a little rod made up of chitin that opens up the vagina, and then, of course, if this parasite has, this organism has copulatory versa, hangs onto the female, and this would be the spicules. Spicules open up the vagina, and then sperm is transferred to the female. So there are two different structures. Some species have both of them. Some species have only spicules. And as time goes on, you will learn which one has which, I hope. Okay, fertilization is internal, of course. For juvenile stage, your textbook calls them J1, J2, J3, J4. I call them L1, L2, L3, L4, an adult. Okay, same thing. I like to call them L1, L2, L3, L4 because that's the way I was raised since my freshman year, and then back in Kentucky, my teachers, they all refer to it as L1, L2, L3. Whatever you want to write down is correct. L3 or J3, same thing. L stands for larva, J stands for juvenile. Both are used in textbooks. L3 is in most of the time is the infective stage. That means we ingest it, whatever is the life cycle of the parasite. We ingest it, we become infected with that parasite, or penetrate our skin, or transferred by a mosquito. Am I making some sense? Or by a fly? And you will learn all of them, all of different modes of transmission of these different parasites in this Phylum Nematoda. Do I make sense? Here we go. So this is a general anatomy of roundworms. So they have a sucking mouth, powerful pharynx in there, powerful pharynx develops suctions, pseudocoelom here, and then you have the ovary, which makes the egg. You have developing eggs, uterus, vagina, right in the mid portion of the animal, intestine, and you have anus here. So this is a female. Advantages of having space, what I mean advantages of having a pseudocoelom, that's pretty much what they want. I mean freedom of movement, space for development, better circulation, storage of waste, and hydrostatic pressure. Again, hydrostatic pressure used for movement. Okay, so formation of hydrostatic pressure. Protostome animals, bilateral symmetry, triploblastic. Right? We are into triploblastic animals until the end of semester. We're done, finished, kaput with diploblastic. Cilia elegans, of course, is the most well-studied nematode animal on planet Earth, and muscle extended to axon, opposite of the rest of animal kingdom. Is there any question? Here is a nematode. This is a scanning electron picture of it. Here is a nematode, and what is surrounded by, it's in the dirt, by fungi. These fungi wrap around the nematode, kill them, and then of course use them as a food source. So outside, when you go to the dirt and you dig up dirt, you see some nematodes. They are feed for other organisms. Okay, they can be, and of course they do eat other organisms as well when they're in the soil. Okay, this is in your textbook. Let's go over the anatomy of it a little bit. This is a cross-section of the animal. Of course, this is a female. Okay, and then you do have, on your slides, you do have female and male next to it. I hope I'm making some sense. Okay, let's go over it quickly, all of the structures. All of these are longitudinal muscles. And look, all of these longitudinal muscles are going to the nerve cord. One on the dorsal side, one on the ventral side. Okay, so you have two nerve cords, runs this way, of course. And then all of these muscles, longitudinal muscles, go into the nerve cords. Then you have the intestine, right here. Then you have two lateral lines. They're called excretory duct, goes through the lateral lines. So in this model, it's been broken. Oh, no, it's here. It's here. So in this model, right here is a lateral line, and right in the middle of it is the excretory duct. Okay, right here, the cross section is lateral line and the excretory duct. So that's what these guys, and you can see these on your slides nicely. The nerve cord, you have to look through so many slides until you find the nerve cord. If you cannot find it, ask for my slides. I'll give you my slides so you can find the nerve cord. Nice and beautiful in my slide. Okay, ovary, the smallest circle, you should be able to distinguish it, but in your slides, the smallest circle is ovary, a little bit larger is oviduct, and the biggest one on your slide is uterus. Okay? Then, of course, you have hypodermis, cuticle, hypodermis, cuticle. Cuticle is made by hypodermis, we talked about that, and all of that white area in here is your pseudocoelom. Why is it pseudocoelom? This came from endoderm, this came from mesoderm, so that space is surrounded by mesoderm, endoderm, it is pseudocoelom. If this came from mesoderm, then that would be true coelom, which is not in this case. I hope I'm making some sense. Of course, this is showing you that all of these muscles are coming to the neuron. All of these longitudinal muscles are coming to the neuron. Okay, this is in your text. Here again, another thoracic movement, copulatory spicules and bursa or bursa, L1, L2, L3, L4, adult. I don't think I have anything else to say. The first organ, yes?
L4 and adult are two different.
Two different ones. What happens? You have egg. Anybody has a good one? I got it. Egg becomes L1. L1 becomes L2. L2 becomes L3. L3 get inside of the host, whatever host that is, human, dog, cat, bird. And then L3 becomes L4 in the host. And then they molt one more time. L4 becomes adult. Inside of the host, they molt one more time. I hope I'm making some sense. Okay? Okay. Let's go. Ascaris lumbricoides, it can be found in swine, in pigs, and in human. Egg can remain in an environment for a long time. The mummies they open. You know, when they had mummies in old days, guys, they were rich people. You all studied the history of mummies. They didn't mummify everybody in those days. They only mummified rich people. People who were some kind of class at that time. And when they opened them up, they saw the eggs of course, the actual worm was dead, finished over the years. But the eggs remain in the gut. The eggs can remain in the environment for a long period of time. Okay, and because of that chitin, the hard shell is very thick. And then again, I'm talking about Ascaris lumbricoides. I'm not talking about all of the nematodes. I'm just talking about Ascaris lumbricoides, not all nematodes. some of the nematodes, the shell is very thin, easily breaks, and they cannot stay in the environment for a long time. They stay in the environment for a short period of time. They have to become L1. If not, they die. Okay, so eggs can remain in the environment for a long time. About 15 to 40 centimeter long. You agree? This is 15 to 40 centimeter long. That story I told you in the battlefields when they open up each other's gut, worms gushed out. No, I've never seen that in a Hollywood movie. They don't come and consult parasitologists for making movies. They don't know what they're missing. If I want to make a movie, the first thing I do is see some parasitologist. Okay, the mouth has 3 lips. Again, not all nematodes' mouth has 3 lips. Again, I am talking about Ascaris, the roundworm. All of the roundworms in the gut of the human. Anus on the ventral side, male have spicules, not copulatory bursa. They have spicules, but they do not have copulatory bursa. And male is curved. If you would, the male of something that I might ask you to identify, I have some jars, some specimens there, that the male is curved, female is straight, and female usually is bigger. Am I making some sense? Okay, so they're dioecious, of course. Female has a Y shape. If you look at the dissection here, they did dissect them for you guys. If you look at the dissection, you will see that there are 2 ovaries. My hands, is that right? The 2 ovaries. And then they become a little bit long, thicker. On your slide also, 2 oviduct. And then a big, huge uterus. 1. At the end of the uterus is the vagina. Am I making some sense? 2 ovary, 2 oviduct, 1 big, huge uterus, and then at the end of uterus is vagina. When we used to dissect these guys, I don't want to dissect them anymore because of the egg, so on and so forth. We could see all of the ovary is very small, then oviduct, uterus, and that's why it's Y shape. They call it a Y shape, right? This is a Y shape, capital Y. The male reproductive tract is straight. Testes, seminal vesicles, and ejaculatory duct. Thin ovary, larger oviduct, and even larger uterus, direct life cycle. These guys have direct life cycle. They do not need a nematode or a snail or anything transmitter. We get them by eating another human feces. How did mummies from rich families got it? It's me. I don't know. Food, usually food. Contamination of the food. They were not that sanitary, I think. That's the only assumption I can make. Even the rich people in high-level society in those days, the sanitation was not perfect. Okay, so anyhow, but it's almost gone. None of us in this room, I can bet. None of us in old days, old days, everybody had it. I would say 200 years ago. But now I bet none of us in the room in here have it. I bet that. Okay, but the immigrants who come from other countries, that's usually they're kept in the camp. I don't know if you know anything about them or not. Immigrants that comes, usually they check them for that. Not the immigrants come as a regular normal. You know what I'm saying. If there are immigrants who come in a camp, yes, they check them for Ascaris lumbricoides. And easy to treat. 1 pill. Fertilization after copulation, of course. The organism that is found in dogs and cats and wild carnivores are as follows. Toxicaricanus. For what animal? Dogs. Toxicaricati. For what animal? Cat. And Toxascus leonina for wild carnivores. Lions, tigers, wolves. You find. Okay. Then the other concept that you should know is called visceral larva migrants. Visceral larva migrants is when the L3, you remember L3? I erased it. When L3 of these parasites, all three of them, the three musketeers, all three of them, when the L3 accidentally be ingested, remember, we ingest this one. It's not penetrating the skin. Yes, no, maybe, perhaps. When we ingest it accidentally, then they look for the enzymes and the protein molecules of the dog to become L4, to become adult. They move around and move around in our gut, and move around in our gut. They cause pain to us, pain, stomach ache, so on and so forth, and they do not become L4. They do not become adult. They're just migrating. That's what they call them, visceral larval migrants. I had a friend, he said, I have a daughter, I have a sister, and she has stomach bellyache all the time, and we went to many doctors, and I don't know, it was just a coincidence. He shared that story with me. I said, look up visceral larval migrants. I said, what? And he was a doctor, he was a medical doctor. I said, what? I said, look it up. I don't know. I never asked him to what happened. Was it visceral larval migrants? Again, it's hard to diagnose and hard to treat. I don't know. Well, I don't know. You can give some anti-helminth drug and then maybe treat it, maybe not. I don't know, but it's very hard to treat. How are you going to treat it? By what method? There is no egg in the feces, right? They do not become adult. They're still juvenile stage, and they're migrating, and they're hoping to come across the enzyme, the protein molecule to become L4 adult, but they don't. They just cause us pain and ache. But anyhow, if somebody has that, maybe you want to tell the doctor, you're checking for this. Again, read that parasitology book I have. Very hard to diagnose, and of course, treatment, the only thing that comes to my mind, put it on benzimidazole. It's an anti-helminth drug. Get rid of it. Okay, here they are. These are male, right? Smaller than female. Okay, so you can distinguish them in the lab material type exam. Look at the thick shell. This is the shell. And we do on your 2x2s. You have a lot of 2x2s for this exam. 24, 25 or anyhow. Right here is a thick shell of this. And of course the egg is low. The three lips that I showed you, that I talked to you about, this is the Toxicaricanus cati, I'm sorry. It has ala here, but the other ones have only three lips. They do not have ala in here. And very nice picture. Here, in severe cases, that there is a lot, I don't know if this picture was made up or actually, they say if a person has too many of them, they can come out from nose, from mouth, or from anus at night when you sleep. The parasite can, they come out, possible, they can kill, of course, if the numbers are a lot, they block the intestine. There was a story that this little girl, 10, 11, 12 years old, was infected with this worm, and the doctor wrote the medication to kill all of the worms. And when all of the worms died in the intestine, you're supposed to kill them. You ask the lab, a good doctor will ask the lab, how severe? If you have a microscopic slide, and then here's the label of the slide, and you see the egg from, we call it in parasitology, wall to wall, from wall to wall, you have eggs of this parasite, it means that person has a lot of Ascaris. So the doctor should know this, not to kill, give a low dosage of this the drug to kill the worms little by little, not to kill them all at once. Okay? But if a person has a few eggs here and there, which I used to see in the lab all the time from pigs, not human, you can kill all of the worms at one time. So here, in this case, you want to kill the worms slowly. Of course, that little girl that I was talking about, her intestine was blocked, and I don't know what happened after that. Either surgery, they had to open it up, God forbid, you don't want to do that, open up the gut and then remove the worms. So the doctor has to know. If you are a doctor someday, or you're in a lab working as a lab science, you have to tell the doctor that person is heavily infected with Ascaris, lumbricoides, or just say, or in this case, you say just infected with Ascaris lumbricoides. I hope I'm making some sense. The other 2, 3, 4, these are hookworms. The common name for the phylum is roundworm, but these organisms' common name, for lab practical exam purpose, if I ask you what is a common name, and I show you those organisms, it is hookworm. You write down roundworm. No, sorry, that's not correct. And then, of course, you know, roundworm, you get it by ingesting it, right? How do we, I didn't go back. How do we get dogs, how do we get dogs and cats, how do we come across dogs and cats worm? Anybody? Feces from dogs and cats? We eat dogs and cats feces? No, but how? Yes, we do. Yeah, that's the only way we get it. The L3 from dogs and cats. But how?
Walking on the sand with the feces.
When you go to beaches, have you seen on the public beaches, they put up sign, no dogs and cats allowed on the public beaches? That's one of them. Because the dogs and cats come to the public beaches, of course, they poop. And the poop, you and I go to the beach, we lay down on the sand, we go swimming in the ocean, inside of our body. That's the one case. That's why when people get it, it's most likely by going to beaches. Most likely. But it could be somebody contaminated the food, water, drink, whatever we eat. That's possible. But the one that is most common is by going to beaches. Yes, Patrick.
I was going to ask if there's like living and where you can pet.
Yeah, well, no. When you pet the dog, you're going to ingest the egg. The egg does not bother you.